Good morning, boys and girls. Good afternoon if you're doing it in the afternoon. This is your work that should be in your packet for Thursday. It is a poem called A Snake Named Rover. So we're going to quickly go over what it is that you should be doing in this passage and what the expectations are. Remember, even though you are at home, we are expecting you to show some of the same strategies that the kids here at school are showing. So don't just kind of read through this and then answer the questions, because it's not it's not best practices when you are doing your work. Like I have told my kids that are in the class right now, I'm in college right now, and I am still working on my master's degree, and I am still annotating and making notes when I'm reading. So we expect for you to be doing the same. So first of all, when I look at this, I notice that it's a poem because of the way that it is laid out. The lines don't go all the way across. They're all kind of towards the middle of the paper. They look like they're in like the same size chunks. So it kind of like makes me think, that's interesting. I think it's a poem. So there are some things that we go through when we are doing poems that I would like for you to do. So here's the deal. First of all, I want you to label the lines. So you'll notice that these are the lines right here. Each one of these is a line, okay? So you are going to label them. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You'll just go through and label it. I'll do mine while you do yours. Okay, it's kind of a longer poem, huh? Okay, so I have labeled all the lines on my poem. There should be 36 lines in this poem. The next thing that I'm going to do is I am going to do something where I block off the stanzas. So stanzas are basically paragraphs in poetry, okay? So a paragraph is like a group of phrases or sentences grouped together, and then once there is this little like break or kind of like a space, you would know that that's the end of the stanza. So I'm going to kind of block this off and label that S1. Block this off. This is S2. You should be doing this on your poem that you have at your house. S4, S5, S6, S7. We've got S8, and then we've got S9. So if somebody were to ask you how many stanzas there are in this poem, your answer would be 9. There are 9 poetry paragraphs named stanzas. So we've labeled our lines, we've labeled our stanzas. The next thing that we want to do is we want to kind of look through and see if we can find any kinds of patterns. So there is something that I notice, and we can kind of talk about this together, but we've got dog, make, dog, snake. So when I look at words that rhyme, I see that make and snake rhyme. So it's almost like it skips every other line. Loudly, plan, snake, can. I hear plan and can. So I would circle the rhyming words in my poem as well. And like I said, you're noticing that in each stanza, the second and the fourth lines of that stanza rhyme. So if they asked a question like, which lines rhyme? One of the choices could be lines 6 and 8, because plan and can rhyme. So now what you can do by pausing the video, if you'd like, go through and circle, looking at the last word of each phrase and circling the words that rhyme. Okay, so you would pause your video, and then I will be circling, and then we'll move on. Okay, so you've unpaused your video by now, And you're going to notice that what the next thing is that I'm going to do is skim and scan through here for words that stick out. Now, this word rechecked sticks out because it's got a underline. It's an underlined word. Fret, that word, underline also. And I do not see anything else that really kind of sticks out to me in a big way. So the next thing that I would do is I would predict what it is going to be about. I know that it's going to be a poem. So a poem about what? You tell me. Okay, and don't just say it's going to be a poem about a snake named Rover. What do you look at when you see Rover? What kind of snake do you think he is? So maybe you can make a prediction about that based off of his picture right here. Okay, so the next thing that you would do after we've labeled all the poetry type of items is you're going to flip it over. And we are going to code the questions together, okay? So follow along with me so you know what we're looking for. So for number 1, it says, what is an antonym for fret in the 6th stanza? Okay, so 6th stanza is important because it tells me where to look. The word fret and then the word antonym. And an antonym means the opposite. So we're looking for a word that means the opposite of the word fret in the 6th stanza. So let me flip over, go to the 6th stanza, which that's why we labeled them. It's super easy to find. 6th stanza, there's fret. I need to draw a little line there, and I need to put that for number 1, I need to look for the opposite of this word. And that will kind of help me know that when I'm reading it, figure out what it means and then what is the opposite, okay? All right, the next one would be number 2. It says, which sentence helps the reader understand that the author dislikes the idea of buying a pet snake? So we're looking for a sentence. And which one shows us that the mother dislikes the idea of buying a snake? So this word kind of pops out to me. She dislikes it. So whatever it is that we find, it's going to have to do with disliking. The third one, read the 8th stanza. The reader can conclude that blank and a question mark. What are we trying to conclude in the 8th stanza? So I need to pay attention to that one. Go on to the 8th stanza, which is down here. And I am going to write, for this one, let's draw a little line and let's put number 3, conclude. We're making a conclusion, right? Drawing a conclusion. So you would go through and do the same thing. Poetry often has words that repeat the same beginning sound. I'm looking at the same beginning sound. That's called alliteration. Okay, so an example would be Amy's apples. So you can write that on there. There's both of the words start with the same sound. So now when we look here, we need to look at line 4, line 15, line 9, and line 13 and figure out which one has that alliteration, okay? The next one says the reader can conclude that, and it doesn't tell us where to go, but we know we need to make a conclusion. So we just need to pay attention and figure out which one of those makes the most sense. Now we move on to number 6. If the boy did not get a new pet after returning Rover, you can predict that he will feel what? So we're looking at feelings of characters, okay? And how would he feel if the boy did not get a new pet after returning Rover? So we don't know really that much about them, but as we read, we would try to figure out if the boy didn't get a new pet, how would he feel? Who is the narrator of the poem? So basically, who is telling the poem? Who is saying it? Is it the boy? Is it Rover? Who is it? Who's telling the poem? Number 8, from which point of view? Okay. Point of view, if it's first person point of view, you're going to hear a lot of I, me, us, and we. Okay, that means that like the specific person that's telling the poem is actually the main person or character in it. If it's third person point of view, you're going to hear things like maybe names, okay? Or like them, or you, or things like that. You're going to hear specific names, stuff like that. What is number 9? What is the meaning of the word rechecked? So when we look at this word rechecked, I see this little part re added to it, and that is a prefix. We've got our word here, check, okay? And that is our base word. So I'm going to label that. And that means that they added this re to make it mean something different. Okay, and then if you add an ed to the word at the end, that means it happened in the past. Okay, so I would label that. All right, and this is base. Sorry, you can't really tell that's an E. All right, and then number 10, it says, which line from the poem is an opinion? Ooh, okay, so it's an opinion, so it shows feelings like hate, like, love, I think that, those kinds of things that cannot be proven. That is an opinion. Which line includes an opinion? Okay. All right. And then your last two would be this poem has how many lines and how many stanzas. And we already talked about that, so you should get that one right. Okay. I am going to post this in Google Classroom. Sorry for the late post. Go ahead and answer the questions. And then after you answer the questions, I would like for you to put in your answers in the Google form that will be added. Thank you and have a great day.